Bright Duty. Every student matters.
Hello everyone. So the another social institution that we want to talk about now is the political system. We know when we talk about the political system, we do talk about the polity, we do talk about the governance, we do talk about the government, we do talk about the state, we do talk about the country, the nation and all of these aspects. So understanding how is the political system an institution. So the political institution constitutes the political system. The political institutions are those institutions which deal with the order and the stability in society by reinforcing the norms, rules and laws. So we know that our political system reinforces or enforces the rules, norms, laws, regulations, etc. And it is that particular institution which deals with the order and the stability by enforcing all of these things. So in order to enforce laws and rules, the political system enjoys the monopoly of legitimate power of authority. When we talk about the monopoly of legitimate power of authority, that means monopoly as in the single power. You are the sole person in the power. You enjoy the single power of applying the legitimate power or the authority, the legal power or the authorized power and the authority. That is what the political system is. This characteristic of authority distinguishes the political system from other systems. The political system is a subsystem of society. It is a subsystem of society. It is a subdivision of society. And according to Max Weber, the state is the most fundamental institution of political system. So here the state is the most fundamental or the basic unit of the function or the functional unit of the fundamental institution, wherein the state exercises the monopoly over the legitimate use of power within the given territory. So the state is the one which actually has that authority, which actually has that legal authority or the legitimizing the use of the authority and power in that particular given territory, which is the territory of the state. And it can use to force implement its policies. So whatever policies that the state is coming up with, whatever policies that the state wants to implement is that can be implemented by the use of legitimate power and authority. The legitimate power and authority are the two aspects which can be used by the state to enforce or to get enforce certain implementations of the policy. Now herein there are four essential elements of the state. A population. Obviously within the state, if there is no population, that means there is no state as such. A well-defined territory. You would have to have a well-defined territory in order to have it a state or in order to have the fixed boundaries of the state, and hence that is an essential element. A government, which is something, a government which has that knowledge or which has that, that aspect of taking care of the state, of being appointed, something like by the people, of the people, for the people, and taking care of the state. And the sovereignty, which is the supreme power or the authority of the state to govern itself or another state are these four important elements of the state. Moving on to the aspect of power and authority, which is one of the very major aspects and a very important aspect of the political system, that says that power is the ability to exercise influence over persons irrespective of the will of the person through force or threat of force. So power is something wherein you are able to enforce, you are able to exercise that influence, you are able to exercise that power, that kind of a control over the other person irrespective of the will of the person by some kind of a force or some kind of a threat of the force. When power is legitimate, it becomes authority. So when you have legitimate power, when you have the legal aspect of power, it becomes authority, and thus force or coercion forms an essential element of the political system. So force is something that forms as the essential element of the political system, because it is one of the bases by which or through which the person is able to exercise the power, the person is able to exercise the authority, and hence becomes a major part of the political system. It is the coercive power which characterizes the relationship between the political system and the non-political systems. It is that relationship which is being followed between the political and the non-political system, and hence is seen in the political sphere. Power is different from authority. Now, how and what distinguishes these two is the legitimacy. Whether the exercise of power is legitimate or not is the one that defines that if it is power or if it is authority. For example, and the explanation of legitimacy, if they are given, that the meaning of legitimacy is rightfulness, whether the individual has been given the right to exercise the power. Now, when you have been given the right to exercise that power, that is when you have the legitimacy, that is when you have the right, that is when you have the authority, that is when you have the legal basis of exercising your power. Force is exercised by both. Both of these are the people who exercise force. For example, they have taken the robber and the policeman, but the force that the latter exercise is legitimate and not the one which is the former exercises. If it is going to a shop to actually take or to rob some stuff, so that is a kind of force that the person will be exercising on the person where it is going, but that will not be legitimate. That will be something that it is doing on the basis on the basis of some weapon on in his hand, or on or because of certain other things. But the kind of force that the policeman will exercise on any person will have power attached to it, and hence will be a legitimate force. Now, there are types of authority as well. There are different types of authority, but the prominent types of authority were proposed by Max Weber, which are explained here. First is the traditional authority. When the legitimacy is derived from the existing conventions and customs, it is traditional authority. Example, the British monarchy. When you have something already going on, when you have something which is legitimate and has been going on from generations, and you take up your authority or you take up your power or you take up your legitimacy from that, your power from that, then it is known as the traditional authority. You are taking up something that is going on from previous generations, and hence becomes a part of your traditional authority. Moving on to the rational and the legal authority. In rational and legal authority, the laws are impersonal and apply equal to all. In rational and legal authority, you have a rationale behind having that particular authority. You have a rationale behind for having that particular law. As simple as the not skipping of the red lights. You have a rationale behind it of avoiding the accidents for the safety of each and every person. And it is involved at the legal level. Legal aspects as in it is equal for all. It applies equally for all, and hence is known as the legal and the rational authority. Now, individuals have to compete for authority, which is distributed depending upon the rules. In the system, merit, qualification are also very important. Example, the modern bureaucratic system. When you talk about the rational legal authority, rational on the basis of your qualification of the exams. We are giving you a qualifying pay exam which is equal to all, hence legal as well, which is equal to all, and because of that we are giving you legally a position to hold which has authority attached to it to take care of the running of the nation or the running of the state, and hence is the explanation of the rational legal authority. Moving ahead to the charismatic authority. If a charismatic authority comes to power, the authority he occupies is called the charismatic authority. Example, Mahatma Gandhi and Dalai Lama. So some kind of a charisma that you have, some kind of an aura that you have, some kind of a persona that you have as a person. People are following you because of your ideas. People are following you behind your ideologies. People are, who are following Mahatma Gandhi or who are following Dalai Lama. All of these people have some kind of a charisma, and if you get into authority because of your charisma and because of your persona, then your authority is termed as the charismatic authority. So these were basically the types of political authorities that people have, or the types of authorities that we have in a political system. Moving ahead is the importance of the political systems. Now, political system is a very, very important sphere, and political system is something which is very, very important for the society. How and why is it important is something that we need to understand. So the political system as a subdivision of or a subsystem of unit is necessary for the orderly functions of the society as a whole. You have to have the orderly functioning of the society, a proper functioning of the society, a society with order, with laws, with regulations, and moving on a smooth political path or social path is what we are looking up at, and that is what is one of the major aspects of political system. It has always existed ever since the emergence of societies. We have always seen in some form or the other, be it monarchy or be it democracy. We'll talk about it later in this video itself. But you have always seen this kind of a system. You have always seen this kind of a political system in the societies. Now, political system is the system of rules and regulations or control mechanism to control the behavior of people in the society. It is a system, it is a combination of rules and regulations, it is a system of control mechanisms. At what point of time or at what stage do we have to, is there a requirement of holding the people back and, kind of making them understand what are their rules and what are their regulations and how are they supposed to act and react in certain way, till what extent can they act in a society, are all the forms of the political system. Both written laws and customary laws act as the means of social control in the civilized society. You have a constitution for the written laws. Also, you have customs and rituals for the customary laws that you have. So, it is not just a combination, or it is not just the legal aspect, but it is both the combination of the written laws and the customary laws which becomes a part of the political system. So there has been some kind of political system at every stage in the history of society. That is what we were talking about. And the political system that developed in the primitive societies was based on kinship and religion. Something that we have talked about is kinship, wherein we have seen how well knit the circumstances or the lineage is, and on religion, wherein we talk about that, how customary laws are coming up from these two aspects and how we follow what is being told generation after generation. So the political structure further developed with the growth of the agricultural economy into the feudal form of government. The Industrial Revolution and the French Revolution have paved the ways for democracy. I am sure we know about the Industrial Revolution. We will discuss about Karl Marx as well. We have talked about the French Revolution in your grade 10, where we have talked about the three estate system, wherein we have talked about how these, the inequalities in the three estate system actually paved the path for the concept of democracy, how the inequalities between the bourgeoisies and the proletariats in the language of Karl Marx has actually taken up a phase wherein people required that kind of an understanding, people required that kind of a system wherein equality was promoted, and hence the path of democracy. So the traditional values of orthodoxy, hierarchy, monarchy, and autocracy were replaced by rationality, equality, democracy, and secularism. So, orthodoxy, hierarchy, monarchy, and autocracy, wherein you have some orthodox kind of an understanding of the society, wherein you live in a hierarchical, the vertical structured society, monarchy where you have one rule, autocracy wherein you feel that only you are the ones will be taken care, who can take care of the society, have actually changed to rationality, wherein you actually put in rationales, wherein you actually put in reasoning and logics behind your decisions, and formulate the path of equality because you feel no one person can take total care of the society. You have initiated the concept of democracy wherein we understand that it should be by the people and of the people and for the people, as in it should be a system which is led by our own led by the people who are chosen by us and who we trust to take decisions for us, and secularism where every religion and every culture aspect gets the equal status. So the political authority shifted away from the church and the monarchy to the body of the people called government, elected by the people. Very important for us to understand, and something that we have even read about in the Russian Revolution and in nationalism in Europe as well in your previous classes, I'm sure, that how earlier it was only the authority was there with the church, be it your religious authority, be it your political authority. All the decisions taken by the church was considered to be the decisions that were to be followed and the rules that were supposed to be followed. How from that aspect of authority we have shifted to the people's aspect, the body of people called the government, where we elect the people who we feel that will be able to take the decision for us and hence go forward into the political sphere. So the democratic form of government is currently the most popular political system in the world. That is what we all know, that the political system of the world majoritarily, I'm not saying completely, but majoritarily is running at the democratic setup. Understanding the differences between the democratic and the monarchical setup, it is very, very important for us to understand what are the differences between monarchy and democracy. Monarchy is the rule of single people. The first, wherein we were talking about church, the single person. Have him as taking the decisions on behalf of the community, taking the rules, making the rules and the regulations on behalf of the community, considering the religious aspects, but then you never know that everyone's interpretation of even one line is different. These are all the religious aspects and the religious fasts and the religious written books. So, when monarchy is the rule of the single person, the term monarchy denotes simply the rule of one man, whether good or bad, legitimate or unlawful, wise or incompetent. It is not in your hands to decide who would be the ruler. It is just simply the rule of one man or woman, whether it's good, bad, legitimate, lawful, wise, incompetent is not something that they will take into consideration. Now, Plato and Aristotle introduced the distinctions that narrowed the term by restricting it to rule by one good person. Okay, we take into consideration the best situation that we'd say that it is the rule by one good person. Okay, fine, we have said that. Plato defined the good by reference to law and Aristotle did so by the reference to happiness. Now, here is the distinction that we have started seeing. Plato said that, should be defined by the rule of, with the reference of the law, who is able to follow most of the laws possible, who's able to have, most of the, who's the most lawful person, or for that matter, who is that one person who is following, who's lawfully right. Whereas Aristotle said that it should be in reference to the happiness of an individual as well as the happiness of the people around the individual. So here is the first kind of a distinction that we see when you talk about one good person. When in the modern West they said that another kind of narrowing has occurred in response to the historical developments, especially feudalism. Now what is that? As such, monarchy designates a particular type of one person rule characterized by the legitimate blood descent, no matter how limited the extent of the governing functioning is. It is something that if a monarchical setup is there, we have in a way narrowed it down to the legitimate blood descent. If I am the ruler, my son will become the ruler, or my daughter who is having that blood descent with me, no matter how limited the extent of the government functioning becomes, that person will be given the power in the monarchical setup. Now, the term may even refer to the regimes in which the monarch has no governing functioning at all, as in Great Britain. However, the power of the monarch is customary and passes through family from one generation to another. Like we see in terms of the Great Britain, wherein it is just a custom. It is just a customary power that it is out of respect that people are still following the queen lineage. But they have not a role to play. The governance is different. They do not have a role to play in the governance functions as at that point of time. So monarchical setup may be of that types as well. Moving ahead to the part of democracy, and I'm sure you people will be able to relate to that much more, because we live in a democratic setup. We do understand the challenges of democracy also, and we do understand the perks or the pros and the cons of democracy as well. So democracy is the rule of people. It is the rule of people in how and in what ways. So in democracy, people participate in their own political governance. Democracy is most common and the popular political system at present. People do follow or people do participate in the political sphere, in the political governance. Democracy can be of two types. One is the pure or the direct, and the second one is the representative or the indirect. You have the pure democracy, as in, you direct democracy, you go and choose your person, you go, in terms of when we are electing the people, when we are electing the people of our own areas, when we are electing MLAs, it is like you go and vote for that one particular person. However, further on, how your prime minister is appointed, or further on, how for that matter your president is appointed, it is the representative elections or representative democracy, when the people who you have chosen represent through their thoughts and through their process of participating in the elections and through their votings represent you, and hence is known as the representative power. Now, representative democracy also can be based on, you can have two basic forms. One is the parliamentary system, the second is the presidential system. Now, herein, when you are taking decisions in the parliament, the daily decisions, daily one-on-one decisions in terms of the parliament, that is what your parliamentary system is. When I talk about choosing of the PM here, it is based on the majority of what you have decided in the direct elections only. But herein, the indirect elections will have majorly the presidential and the parliamentary system, wherein in the parliament, the people you have chosen will take actions or will take decisions based on their understanding or based on your trust on them. And here in case of the president, again, they'll take that decision based on your trust on them. Now, democracy is a government which depends on the consent of the governed, that is the people. You might be hearing about the whole farmers' protest going on. It is something that is going on because the people are not giving the consent of what the government has done for them. So herein, the democracy government is dependent on the consent, as in, the approval of what the people are, of the governed, that is the people. It is also sometimes called the government in which the people have the sovereignty, in which the people have the power. Now here, sovereignty means the supreme power to take decisions, the power above which there could be no other higher authority. Something that wherein you are taking the decision, like you are taking the decision of choosing your representative in the political sphere. In a democracy, the supreme power is exercised by the people or the citizens as a whole. But particularly or practically, this means that there must be some mechanism available to the do the people to participate in decision making, and people must exercise control over the government. So it is your participation that people had to participate in the decision making. There are some mechanism that is present, and people have the right, or people actually must have that role to exercise control over the government. The government remains in power so long so the people as the people wish them to be in power. Democracy is a form of government and a way of life. It can be more useful if there is social and economic equality. We have political democracy in India, but we are still trying to achieve the social and the economic democracy or equality. This is very, very interesting for us to understand that we do have the political democracy to a very major extent in India. You do choose your people, you do choose your representatives, but you do not at times, because of the diversity, because of the social inequalities, it is, and also the economic inequalities, it is at times very not really possible to actually break the government flow or have a consensual understanding or have a consensual decision over the political systems or over the political spheres, and hence we are yet to achieve the social and the economical equality that is there that is yet to be achieved in India. democracy. So this is what we had to discuss as the political system as a part of the social institutions. I hope this made sense. I hope this is clear to all of you and you were able to relate all of this since we live that, since we have that aspect of the democratic setup and you are able to answer the questions towards the end.